Good morning, aviators. Since I woke up early and couldn't go back to sleep, here we are. It is currently 4 a.m. over here. So let's just build the Alpha Jet. I mean, might as well. I'm gonna go ahead and take a look at the manual. The first thing they want you to do, step one is to put the wings on. Step two is the elevators. And then obviously step three would be the rudder, or next page is the rudder. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the actual vertical fin or slash the rudder before I put the elevators on or the wing on, because that way I can, if I need to maneuver it or whatever, I can do that. So recap, the rudder, all this is a decal. This is not painted, just so you guys know. This is a decal, so hopefully it doesn't bubble up or in the sun or anything like that. The rest of the airplane is painted. The white is bare foam here, as is the auxiliary fuel tank or whatever this is supposed to be. I believe it's a fuel tank. Not the Alpha Jet expert. So having said that, let's just start with the vertical fin. So obviously we have to get the matching pigtail from the radio in here. Taking a look at it. Oh, my pigtail is actually folded up in here. I don't know if you can see it. So just put the airplane in a vertical position like this, and just give it a couple of love tabs. So now you see the cable right here. So the cable just falls down. I mean, you could try other means. You know, what do you call it? Stick something in there to get the cable out, but little love tabs was all that's needed. There's a locking servo connector in there, so just go ahead and get, match the wires. This one has a yellow signal cable. This is like the JR styles or high-tech style. The fin has a Futaba style connector, so it's black, red, white. Match up the white with the yellow on the inside of the airplane, and just lock it in place. There's a elevator servo in there. Just get the wire to the front, front of the airplane, so it doesn't interfere with the servo wire in there as much as possible. And then just basically drop in the fin. You're gonna line up the two. The front piece is gonna have to go forward a little bit, and then you can line up the back. So let's do that. And there it is. Other than that, let me see how big the screws are for this thing, and we'll go ahead and get started. Let me guess I should have got prepared and got the actual correct Allen wrench for that. So let me find that real quick, and there it is. And you can't see it on your side, but we're gonna go ahead and just put in the two screws that belong in the tail. I'll turn it around in a second so you can see it. So screw number one is on. That's the forward one. Then just make sure that it's lined up perfectly in there. Put in screw number two. And if you have your vertical fin lined up, then it should just drop in there and start going in. Go ahead and get my driver here, and in an awkward position, try to there we go. All right. Once it goes all the way through, you don't have to over tighten them. I mean, this just have to be like, don't crush the fin or the base. trying to over tighten it. You know, just once you feel it's snug, that's good enough. You don't really have to tighten it, you know, to a certain torque. Just use common sense there, man. All right, the elevators. It tells me for the elevators, obviously you just put them in there and put the screws. And just to make sure, yep, screws go into the bottom. This will be the 3 by 10 millimeter. So there's only 2 different kind of screws in there, long ones and a short one. One is 10 millimeter, the other one is 20 millimeter long. The 2 10 millimeters are the one for the elevator. The other 6 20 millimeter. There's 2 for the fin, one here, and then 2 for each wing. So let me flip this over. There is a mark that's only available on the right hand side of the airplane that tells you where the 0 line or the actual the neutral point for the elevator is supposed to be. So go ahead and make sure that the elevator is lined up. Slide in the elevator. I guess I should have set up my flight stand, my model stand. Anyway, flip it over and then go ahead and install the screw to the bottom. You might have to move it around a little bit so you can make sure that the screw is centered on the rod. It's got a nice metal support rod in there where the elevators go in. So there is number 1. And let's do number 2 real quick. Get that in there. Now, I didn't try building any of this ahead of time. This is real time. You know, you see me looking at the manual at the same time I'm putting this in there. I didn't try fitting anything or getting it started beforehand, is what I was trying to say. And again, you don't want to snap the plastic that's the base in there. Just snug them in there. And there's your vertical fin and elevators. Now, only on the, like I said, on the right side, there's a panel line. There's a square right here. There's actually a small square back here, and then another one right where the elevator touches right here. This is your neutral line, the top of that square right there. It tells you that on the manual. So the elevators to be neutral or zeroed in is right about there. And I don't know if you can see the panel line on the phone, in the recording, but there it is. So move those out of the way. Now, for the wing, get your wing spar. Put it in, slide your wing in, make sure it matches your DB9 connector there for the flaps and ailerons. And there you go, both wings are in. I'm gonna go ahead and just put in the screws for the wing anyway, might as well. Make sure they're lined up and all the way in before you try to screw it in, but yeah. And I'm just squeezing the leading edge here a little bit so the hole lines up. And I'll show you just, what I was doing. Just with my thumb, I was holding in the wing a little bit there. Just so the hole matched from the wing to the fuselage. Do the same for the back. Just make sure you can see the hole. If not, you'll have to hold the wing in. And I'm pushing the wing in a little bit with my left hand while I screw it in to make sure the holes match. Now, while I'm putting this in there, let's talk about a little bit about the radio and flaps installation. If you've seen any of my videos, you know that you never just plug in the flaps into the radio and start trying to get them to work. When you connect the radio the first time, or when you're gonna set up the radio, you have to have the flaps, your flap switch in the middle position, just to make sure that you don't ruin that servo. And by that I mean, like, if you have the flaps up and that radio is reversed and it's trying to push the flap even more, you're gonna burn out that radio because the flap is not moving, and you're just gonna overheat that. You possibly overheat that servo and just ruin it. So yeah, you just have to be careful with that. Let me make sure this one's lighting up. It doesn't want to go in. You have to push the wing in some more. Just do a visual check when you're putting in the screws that the wing is all the way in. Right now the connector, the wing is not flush, so it's not going in there perfectly. I'm gonna have to be holding it again. I'm holding the plastic leading edge right here, not so I don't crush the foam, and trying to make sure I get it in there properly. All right, for all intents and purposes, that's the end of the build. But let's go ahead and do the radio. I'll show you how I connect my radio. Now, I don't have any small receivers right now with me. This is only like a 6-channel radio. I usually like to do a flap and an aileron on their own channels. So just for grins, we're gonna be installing a 14-channel receiver because that's what I have. And let's see, the only thing that I didn't put in there for you guys, part of the build, is the external fuel tank. So it's just gonna flip it over on its back and I'll hold it. Put it backwards, and this will just slide back. There it is. The external tank, just pull it forward to take out, drop it in the slot, move it back, and there you go. I mean, it's not designed for that, but hey, if you ever have a landing gear failure, this will save the airplane. So I hope they keep a lot of these in stock. Not saying that the actual retract will fail, just saying that it makes for a good save on your airplane if you ever have that problem. So now what I'm going to do is I want to move the camera in close so I can program the radio and show you guys how I do it. My way is not the only way. You guys have your own different radios, so whatever. Hey, let's put a $3,000 Futaba radio on a $400 foamy. Yay! Come on, you gotta be sarcastic sometime. I don't want to stop the recording and rearrange the radio for the radio because then it changes the angle. So let me just see how I can do this here. I'm gonna turn on my radio. Let me spin this around. There we go, that's what I wanted. And hopefully it doesn't change the angle because I dislike it when that happens. Alright, so right now I have it set to new model. I haven't configured anything except for I bound the receiver to the radio, blah blah blah. So first of all, let's change the name of it. And instead of new model, we're going to go Alpha Jet, obviously. And just Alpha. And there it is. We're going to select that model. So now it's set up for Alpha. I'm going to go ahead and look at my functions. Aileron, elevator, throttle, rudder, gear, aux2. Real quick, we're gonna do something here. With the nice radio, you get the chance to rename the channels to whatever you want, obviously. So aux2, instead of being aux2, it's gonna say flaps. I mean, excuse me. Yeah, it's gonna say flaps. Wait a minute, don't we? We already should have a flap. Never mind. I was gonna try to show off, and I was just being ridiculous. So anyway, channel 6, we're just gonna go for flaps. So I don't have to rename anything. So again, just typical, since only 6 channels, we got aileron, elevator, throttle, rudder, gear, flap. So that part is set up. The other thing I always set up first as well, before I do flight conditions. So I trim out the model one time, and then I don't have to worry about it. It keeps the trims for each position. So before I go ahead and what do you call it, and set up the flight conditions, one of the things you have to do is set up the actual dual rates. AFR-dual rate, and then I'm always going to be on Expo, and I'm going to combine the rates instead of separate. So let's set up the dual rate. First one is aileron. It says off. We're going to turn it on, and then it wants the switch number. So I always set up the ailerons on the left and the elevator on the right. You can do it however you get comfortable with it. Some people just have the aileron on the right and the elevator on the left. So yeah, I want to be able to switch the ailerons, the elevator, without moving my finger out of the elevator a lot of times. But you know what? Just for giggles, we're going to go ahead and set it up on the right. So first of all, I have to select a switch. And in this case, SD is the one on the right. The on position is going to be on top, because I'm going to set up 3 rates. So there's the first one. That one's an SD. Second one is also going to be aileron. I'm going to select the switch again. That was SD. On position, this time the on position's in the middle. And last but not least, for the aileron, we're going to set up the 3rd position. So off, off, on. So now I have 3 dual rates for the aileron. And depending on where the switch is at, you see the turn on. So this is high rate on the top, mid rate on the middle, and then low rate on the bottom. So that's for aileron. Let's do the elevator. And we're going to do it the same way. We want 3 of them. Okay, we want 3 of them for set up for elevator as well. And then, same thing. Top position is going to be the switch on the top. So this is on the top. And then we'll go ahead and do the one in the middle. So now on in the middle, and then off on the top and off on the bottom. And of course the last one for now is going to be off in the top, off in the middle, and on the bottom. So there's the dual rates. They're all all of them are turned on. So then once dual rates are done, oh, you know what? I didn't check if all of them were. So this is the aileron. It went back to linear. We're gonna do expo and combined. That's at the top rate. And the middle rate will do the same thing. And at the bottom we'll do the same thing. Expo and combined. Now I have 3 positions. The first one is always gonna be, I always leave it at 100%. Expo, I always go with about 15 or 20. So at 100%, I get 20% expo. At mid rate, I go down to 80% of the travel. And again, I keep the same expo. 15 to 20 is what I'm comfortable with or what I use. And then so there it is. There's my 3 rates. High rate aileron, is going to be 100% and 20 expo. Mid rate is going to be 80% and 20 expo. And then last 60% and 20 expo. That's for the aileron. Let's go ahead and do the elevator. And same way, the top is going to be 100% and then 20 expo. Mid rate will do the same. And now I'm not the programming expert when it comes to this radios, but I had to learn enough to get along and survive, if you know what I mean. Most of the stuff I learned from Jordan. Jordan Factor was the expert on these until he switched to core or something else. I'm sure he's still the expert. Anyway, so there's my 3 rates for elevator. Expo 1, 100% and 20, 80% and 20, and then 60% and 20. Now, why do you do this before you set your conditions? If you set your conditions first, before you do the dual rates, then you have to worry about putting in those 3 dual rates for aileron. You'll have to do them 3 times. So in total, you'll be programming 9 dual rates. So you always do the actual what do you call it? Dual rates before you do conditions. Let's see. Nope. And let's just check in. So see, function name. No, wrong one. All right. Besides the actual flight conditions, that's pretty much all the. We'll go ahead and add the conditions now. Then go ahead and add condition 2, add condition 3. So you have 1, 2, 3. Okay. So now condition 1, I just put. I always rename it and just put normal. Flying normal, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. I just call it normal. So there's condition 1. Condition, this came in, I want 3 in the bottom. Obviously, I don't know what happened. So did it do them by name? Condition 2 is always going to be takeoff flaps. So I always just call it takeoff. You can call it whatever you want. So there's my second condition. I'm going to add condition 3. There it is at the bottom. And since we have normal takeoff, this one is just called landing. I don't get too creative. All right, so there's the 3 conditions. The only thing that hasn't been set is how you're going to deploy them. Which switch is going to set your conditions. Now, I always set them up via, it's a single switch, and then it's always going to be my flap switch. So in this case, my flap switch is going to be SB, and then it just, you know, put on position. The I forgot which one I was doing. I was doing landing. Excuse me, I was doing takeoff. So in this case, I want the switch in the middle. So it's off on the top, on in the middle, off on the bottom. We'll do condition 3. SB, same switch, on position, and then on the bottom. And then normal, well, that's where it's at now. So normal, takeoff, and landing. Now, the only other thing that I'll do to make this proper is for the flaps, I'll just do SB. So now flaps is on SB, and then, you know, no matter where I'm at, you can see the takeoff, landing, and normal conditions on there. Now, as far as I didn't check all the other ones, but they should be already fine. Aileron, elevator, rudder, gear. Now I have a broken switch. Yeah, don't hate me. For a year I've been trying to buy the darn switch, and I just haven't sent the radio in. Instead, you know, I've been wanting to do it myself. But anyway, SF is my landing gear switch for now. So everything else is normal, and we're done with the programming. So now I'll just start connecting the aileron. I mean, all the connections to the receiver, and they're marked. I mean, you don't have to guess which way they go because they're all marked. They all have labels. I don't expect those labels to stay there all the time. But so 6 is flaps. Aileron is always going to be number 1. Rudder number 3. Excuse me, number 4. Throttle's number 3. Elevator is number 2. And gear is number 5. Now, from the speed controller, you have the throttle channel. I don't really need it connected yet, so I'm not gonna do that. Usually what I do is I connect a receiver battery. In this case, it's just a 6.6 volt battery. It's a 6.6 3000 is just for setting it up, and it's a Futaba radio, so I can plug it in the power to any channel that I want. So let me back up the camera. And like I said, why did I connect the radio now? Well, what I want is to set up the flaps, so the flaps are in the position that they need to be on, whether it's the down position or whatever. What I always tell you guys is, there's the flaps moving up and down. What I always say is, have the flap in the middle position when you first turn on the radio, because that way you don't damage the servo if it's hitting the wing or anything else. Let me remove the tank so it sits properly in there. So there's the tank. We should have enough power for the gear since it's a 6.6 battery. There's the doors opening. There's the landing gear. Oh man, look at that shock absorbing right there. And then I'm just checking right now the flap position and see where it's at. So this is a perfect example. My flaps are right now reversed or where it needs to be. When I have the flaps up, the servos are all the way facing forward. So we'll just go in here real quick and reverse the flaps. So now they're in the position they need to be. Now I can go ahead and install the flap servo. So quick check, elevator is in the right position. Rudder is backwards, so let's reverse the rudder. And there's the steering also working properly. Ailerons are okay. So, all right, guys, I went ahead and move the airplane around to the other side so I can take out the wing and show you guys how to install the flap. Now on the instructions, it tells you to use the third hole down from the servo arm. So the lower the push rod is in the servo arm, the less travel there is. Same thing with the height over here. If you had multiple holes, the one on the top is going to give you the least travel. So they tell you to put it on the third hole, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and just push it in there, align it. And this is what I was telling you about getting some pliers or hemostats. You don't want to get something too big or too strong. If you do it in the middle, if you try to put it right in the middle, it's not going to go anywhere. It's going to bottom out if you try to go like that, right? And you have to be careful because both of this flexes and it'll break the servo arm, or this, you know, you might pull it out of there. Anyway, so I put it in. And then basically use the hemostats and place them right at the end right here. I want to grab like almost half of the clevis here, or control horn, whatever you want to call it. So I want to grab about half of it, not just a little tip on the corner, and then just basically get the hemostats. And if you notice, I'm angling that forward so I get a good grip on the control horn as well. And there you go, it's in, and I didn't break it. So you just take your time and do it properly. Now we'll go ahead and put it back in. Now I'm not gonna put in the screws yet. I'm gonna check the flaps now and see where they're at, and see if that's where I want them to be at. So there's my flaps, and everything's still connected. I'll check the flaps. It's still way too much travel, so I have to lower it again, go in the opposite direction. So I on one side I said 60 was enough, so I'm gonna go ahead and lower the other side to 60, so now there's not as much travel. Still seems a lot. So I reduced it to 40, just so there's not a lot of flap. So now the flaps are where I want them to be at. Now, one of my flaps is higher than the other one, so I'll go ahead and adjust the clevises. This flap is higher than the other one, but this is about as much travel as you need. Anything over that is overkill. If you notice, this flap is down, that flap is down a little bit, so I can adjust it via endpoint real quick. And then see if that gets me where I want to be. If not, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and twist in the not endpoint, I want meant sub trim. So I'll use some sub trim to get them where I need to be. And then if that doesn't do it, then I'll go ahead and take some turns out of the servos there. But I should be able to adjust it via endpoints. Sub trim. So flap gear, that's going down. I want them to go up a little bit, and I just want them flush with the aileron and flush with the fuselage, and that gets me where I want them. I still have, this one is pretty much flush, but I still have this one that is a little bit lower. So I can either check the servo arm and see if they're in the same orientation, or I can get the push rod and back out a couple of turns. All right. Welcome back, aviators. She's ready to go. A rough CG check shows the battery should be about that far back. Again, this is a 6S 5600, so your battery, you know, will vary. But yeah, in this case, mine is pretty much hitting the back part of the battery compartment there. And then basically the CG is at 155 millimeters from the leading edge back. It shows it right where the wing separation there. I don't want to call it separation, but that's the first thing I could think of. So again, CG is 155 millimeter from the wing back, from the leading edge back. Basically, roughly right about that the little separation of the wing, the Air Force style separation of the wing. The battery's all the way back as far as it'll go in the battery compartment, and we pick it up at the marks. Boom. Just very slightly nose heavy, and that's what you want. All the control surfaces are ready to go. X-Flight gives you the recommended settings, and they've done that based on their flights. They actually do fly them. You've seen the videos. So I want to say, you know, even though the elevator and the aileron throw seem minimal or very small, stick to what they put in there, because it's always correct. With X-Fly, I never had anything being wrong, whether it be CG or the control throws. There's the Alpha Jet ready to go. As soon as I get a chance, I'll go ahead and take it out to the field. But for now, thank you for watching this video. Have a good one.